I'm Sebastian St. James. There are two ways in which you can retire. One can send you broke. The other can stop you from going broke. The choice is yours. This is Stanley. Stanley likes baggy pants because it gives him more freedom. And let's face it, we all like a little bit more freedom. Stanley has heard of the 4% rule. What is the 4% rule? Well, that is where you withdraw 4% in the first year of retirement of your balance. So if you retire with $1 million, then year number one, you withdraw $40,000. And then you withdraw an inflation-adjusted amount each subsequent year. So as inflation goes up, the amount you withdraw goes up. So you're basically withdrawing the same real amount, real meaning after inflation, but the nominal amount, the pre-inflation amount, actually goes up over time. So here we are. You've retired with $1 million. You withdraw in year number one, $40,000. But inflation is now 10%. So what's 10% of that? Well, the next year you've got to withdraw $44,000 to add the $4,000 from inflation. That year inflation is 5%. So the next year it's $46,200. So how do I get the inflation amount? Well, you just Google it. It is announced. And basically, it's the last 12 months of inflation, whatever that happens to be at the moment. So when it comes time to withdraw for the year, you look at inflation, find out how much you actually withdrew last year, add the amount that inflation has eroded your money by, and that's it. That's basically how it works. Now, you don't have to withdraw everything as a lump sum every year. I mean, that's how the figures are produced. In reality, you could withdraw a 12th. And have monthly withdrawals. However you want, it works all the same way. So with the 4% rule, withdrawals come first. Maintain the current lifestyle at all costs. That's very, very important. And pray your nest egg will fund your lifestyle. What happens if it doesn't? We'll discuss that in a minute. This is Melissa. Melissa has also heard of the 4% rule, but she refuses to go broke. As do I. Let's see if that gets me anywhere. So instead of the 4% rule, we're going to another rule. And what is that? Well, that's the fixed percent rule, where you withdraw a fixed percentage of your nest egg each year. I see. Optionally, you can increase the percentage as you age. So hang on, how is that different? Well, with the 4% rule, you're maintaining the purchasing power of your withdrawals every year. It's always the same purchasing power, adjusted for inflation. With the fixed percentage rule, you're just doing a fixed percent. How much are my investments at the moment? Say I'll take 4-5% of that, and that's what you take every year. So you retire with $1 million. Here I'm using the example of 5%, but it also could be 4%, whatever you want, which is $50,000. Your balance is invested in the market. Oh, it's gone up to $1,040,000. That's not bad. So 5% of that gives you $52,000. The next year it's jumped up quite a bit, $1.1 million. So you're now withdrawing $57,000 and so on. Whatever the market is giving you, you just withdraw the same fixed percentage. So the fixed percent rule, your nest egg comes first as opposed to your withdrawals, which the 4% rule was based on. Your lifestyle fluctuates with the market, and importantly, you never go broke. Hang on, what do you mean you never go broke? How can this guarantee that? Well, I will show you in a minute. Firstly, the lifestyle is totally different between the two rules. The 4% rule gives you the constant lifestyle. It's always going to be the same. It's adjusted for inflation, unless you go broke. And then no, not so much the same. You'll be broke. With the fixed percent rule, it's variable. Sometimes it'll be better than, say, what you'd get out of the 4% rule. Sometimes it could be worse. It just depends on the market. So with the fixed percent rule, it certainly jumps around. Let's have an example of that. So as you can see, in year 4, it jumped from $57,000 up to $68,640, and yet the next year it went down to $61,000. Okay. Whereas on the left-hand side, the withdrawals, $40,000, $44,000, $46,000, $48,000, $52,000, always goes up consistently with inflation. Unless inflation happens to go negative, in which case you would drop the amount that you took in the 4% rule. How likely is that? Not particularly likely. So can you go broke? Well, with the 4% rule, your nest egg may go broke. Absolutely, there's a chance of that. With the fixed percent rule, your nest egg won't go broke. It kind of can't, really. But hang on, isn't the 4% one the rule that everybody talks about? Oh, it's magical. Just follow it. 60% shares, 40% bonds, and you withdraw 4%. It's just like automatic. That can't go broke, can it? Oh, absolutely it can. Here is the market. It's actually years 1 to 15, and apparently that's all we need. So the market returns are, well, it starts off in year 2. 8%, minus 2, minus 10, minus 10. Lowest is minus 20, right? The question is, how realistic are figures like that? Incredibly realistic. What was the worst, minus 20? A bear market is a fall of 20% or more from the most recent high. So in our list of figures, the worst it got was minus 20. Trust me, the market gets way, way worse than a drop of 20% in a year. Oh, now we have inflation. Interesting. So 4% inflation, 3% 13. Well, that's quite a jump up. 12. Oh, down to 1. That's not bad. 1, 4, a 10, and it ends with a 6. How realistic is that? Well, we got down to 1%. That's entirely possible. Got up to 13%. Is that possible? Oh, yes, it is. This is the inflation in Australia. As you can see, in March 1975, inflation got up to 17.7%. Wow, look at that. That is impressive. In my table, inflation of 13% instead of 17.7, entirely realistic. The inflation and the market returns have actually been randomly generated, although I did decide the parameters in which they would travel. Now, let's see how those market conditions impact the 4% rule and the fixed percent rule. Well, here's the 4% rule. It starts off as $1 million. So we withdraw 4%, which is $40,000. Makes sense? Now, $1 million, our first entry, minus the $40,000, and then adjusted by 8% return, which is what the market gave us, gives me $1,036,800. Inflation is 4%, and therefore I withdraw $41,600. And so on down the list. And my withdrawals are going very nicely. 42, 48, 54, right down to 84,000. That's a lovely lifestyle. It's going up all the time, keeping pace with inflation. But watch out, what's happened to your nest egg? Well, it started off at $1 million, it's gone up slightly, then down, down, down. Oh, hang on, I've gone broke. No, unacceptable. Minus $20,000. Oh dear. That's it, folks. Put me in cuffs. I'm being taken to the cleaners. So with realistic inflation figures and with market returns, suddenly within 15 years, you went broke by following the 4% rule. Did I design those numbers specifically for that to happen? Well, yes, I influenced them, but they are also somewhat realistic. And there you go. You went broke. This has occurred because the market is going down in my example over time, plus inflation is particularly high, although nowhere near as high as it is in the 70s. I mean, how likely is that the market goes down while inflation is high? Well, it's happening right now. So in Australia, inflation at the moment is 7.3%, which is pretty high historically. Considering just a year or two, we're down at 2 to 3%. And this is AVV, or the S&P 500. And you see, over the last year, the market's going down. Well, that's nice, isn't it? So the market going down and inflation going up, they're the very conditions that sent our portfolio broke. And they're occurring now, although to a wimpier extent. That's the 4% rule. Let's see how the fixed percent rule actually goes. So here we go. We're taking out 4%. Start off with $1 million. The first withdrawal is $40,000. No surprise there. We go up to $1,036,800, which is exactly the same as the 4% rule. However, notice we're taking out slightly less. $41,472 as opposed to $41,600. Almost the same, but that amount is significant. Down to the next year. Oh, our balance has gone down to $975,000. So we're going to drop our withdrawal by 39 because remember, we're always taking a fixed percent out of whatever our balance is. We're not actually going up with inflation. So we've dropped down to 39,000 with the 4% jumped up to 42,000. All right, this is very, very different. And as we go down right down the bottom, where we're left with, $333,333. Wow, was the 4% rule went broke? Yes, we did not. How impressive is that? However, to achieve that, we had to cinch in our belts and our withdrawal amounts went down, 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 end up with $13,000. That is very much cinched in. So even in this fairly extreme example, although it certainly could happen example, we found out that the 4% rule went bust, and yet the fixed percent didn't. It ended up with $250,000 still. The question is, how did this happen? Well, if we look at the graph, we notice in blue is the balance, which is going down, down, down over time fairly sharply. In fact, so sharply it went negative. And yet, even though our balance is going down continuously, we are choosing, because this is how the 4% rule works, to increase the amount that we're taking out. And it goes up, up, up. As our balance goes down, 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 of course, we're going to go broke. It's basically inevitable, isn't it? On the other hand, with the fixed percentage rule, as our balance goes down, we curb the amount that we're actually taking out. So our withdrawals directly follow what our balance is. So let's compare. Living within your means. The 4% rule is no. The 4% rule is based on Veruca salts. I want it now, Daddy. So you take it regardless of what's happening with your nest egg. You hope that you've done your math right and your nest egg is large enough and it's invested wisely enough that you don't actually go broke. I'm not suggesting that the 4% inevitably will go broke. I'm just allowing for that option that it may. On the other hand, the fixed percent rule should not ever go broke because you dramatically reduce the amount that you're taking out as the balance drops. Predictable lifestyle, the 4%, yes, totally predictable. After inflation, you're always withdrawing the same amount. With the fixed percent rule, no, definitely not predictable because the amount that you withdraw will go up and down depending on your market performance. Need smoothing savings. What's smoothing savings? Smoothing savings is a pot of money that you keep aside deliberately to smooth out your returns over time or your income, how much you're withdrawing. Remember, on the fixed percentage rule, the amount you get from year to year can fluctuate dramatically. So what you do in the better years is you take some of that money and you put it aside. Put it in cash, put it in bonds, put it somewhere else. And so in the leaner years, you can start to withdraw on that. And that's what I'm calling smoothing savings. In the 4% rule itself, do we need that? Well, let's have a look. So, need smoothing savings in the 4% rule? No. Your actual withdrawals are smoothed by definition because that's how the 4% rule works. With the fixed percent rule, yes, you better have some smoothing savings to help you ride out some of that volatility. Everybody needs a safety net in case something goes wrong. What happens if you need a filling and you got to rush off to the dentist? What happens if your car blows up? We all need a few $1,000s stashed away. But that's quite different from the smoothing savings, which is not there for your emergency expenses. You should have a little bit of money put away for a rainy day, regardless of what technique you're using. This is more to smooth out the income side of things. So with the fixed percent rule and the need for smoothing savings, where am I likely to keep them? So you can keep it in cash if you wish, or you can keep it in bonds, for example, TIBS. TIBS is your Treasury index bonds. Treasury index bonds are medium to long-term securities for which the capital value of the security is adjusted for the movement in consumer price index, CPI. Where to put your smoothing savings is entirely up to you, but don't put it in the market because that's what we're trying to smooth out. So keep it somewhere fairly stable. Let's say, Sebastian, I've been watching your videos every week and I've got lots of brand new ideas of how to increase my investments. Which type of retirement is better for me, perhaps? Well, with the 4% rule, are you rewarded for aggressive investing? The answer is no, you're not. You're taking out 4%. I mean, that's set in stone. It's written into the name of the rule. So no matter how well you do with your investments, maybe you've chosen a really good index fund and your investments have grown, you're still only withdrawing 4%. On the other hand, with the fixed percent rule, yes, you are. You're absolutely rewarded for how well your investments do. Fundamentally, besides the way we withdraw, which is obviously quite different, the way we invest often can be different as well between these two rules. With the 4% rule, the classic 60-40, which is 60% shares and 40% bonds, or something around that suits you, is probably recommended. Well, why is that? Other than it's a cliche, 60-40, why might that be important with the 4% rule? Because you are going to withdraw at a fixed amount, regardless of what's happening with your nest egg. I know, that's how it works. Therefore, you need a portfolio that's as smooth as butter. And the 60-40, well, it won't be totally smooth, but will certainly help over, say, straight up shares. With the fixed percent rule, well, you don't have to go 60-40, you could go 70% shares, you could go even higher. With the fixed percent rule, you can actually go, if you choose to, higher into shares. You don't have to, but that certainly is an option. The reason is you're more flexible with the amount that you actually get. It's the same percentage, so the dollar amount you're much more flexible with. So if you are investing in shares, two things will happen. Number one, you'll probably get higher returns. Number two, they'll be a lot more variable. And remember, fixed percentage deals with that variability rather well. With the 4% rule, no, not so much. And that's why you need far more bonds in the 4% rule. Is it possible to go 100% shares? Well, with the 4% rule, no. You're asking for trouble if you do it in that. With the fixed percent rule, yes, you certainly can. What happens if I don't like 4%? What happens if I want 5 or 6%? What are my options? Well, with the 4%, no, you're stuck at 4% because you need those bonds to smooth things over. With the fixed percent rule, yes, you can certainly go higher. 5 or 6% withdrawals are certainly not unheard of under that rule. Well, hang on, why does that work? Whereas the 4% rule, it's like, oh no, better not go above 4%. The reason is, with the fixed withdrawal rule, you can actually take your percentage of shares up. The higher you go up in shares, of course, the greater returns you'll get. The greater returns, the higher potential percentage you can take out. So if you're way up in 90% shares, you may get away with 5 or 6% withdrawal every year. So we've discussed the differences between the two rules. The question is, which is the right rule for you? Well, I'm going to ask you a series of questions which will help you decide. I want a guaranteed standard of living. If that's true, go for the 4% rule. It's the only one that comes with a guarantee of that type. On the other hand, if I'm good at saving for the future, well, the fixed percent rule may be good for you because with the fixed percent rule, you're going to need a smoothing fund anyway. So it is going to require that you're good at savings. So that could be a good choice. When I retire, I want to switch off and not worry about finances. Yeah, the 4% rule there. With the fixed percent rule, you'll be tracking things more closely. Your lifestyle will go up and down. If when you retire, you're really retiring and you say, that's it, my brain is going to be switched off. I don't care about anything in the world. I want to drink cups of Earl Grey tea. I want to go down to little cafes and I want to plant a veggie garden. That's all I'm going to do in my life. I don't want any more hassles. In that case, the 4% rule is probably going to be better for you. On the other hand, if you say, I want to try and grow my nest egg even when I retire, well, the fixed percent rule is the only one that's going to give you that possibility. I absolutely don't want to go broke and am prepared to cut my expenses if necessary. Well, that's the fixed percent rule. That's actually the whole rule in a nutshell. My wife or husband doesn't trust investing and would freak out if our income went down. Well, better stick to the 4% rule. I want to go 100% shares. Well, certainly the fixed percent rule can handle that. The 4% rule, no, not so much. The question is, which one is better? Well, there's really no absolute answer. The question is more, which one is better for you? That depends on your personality. It depends on what you want out of retirement to which one suits you better. Did you know, though, it's not necessarily an either or. You could take a hybrid approach where half your portfolio is based on the 4% rule or the 2% rule, perhaps. The other half could be based on market fluctuations, so fixed withdrawal percentage. You can hybridize and have the best of both worlds. At the end of the day, I give you options. Where you go with it is entirely up to you. The question is, if you're interested in retirement, what are the best dividend stocks for Australians right now? Click here to find out.